American revolutionaries here. American revolutionary Patrick Henry said, when the American spirit was in its youth, the language of America was different. Liberty, sir, was the primary object. Liberty. What does liberty mean to you? We may all have our different ideas about what liberty is, but let me tell you what liberty means to me. Liberty means that I have a right to my own conscience. I have a right to think for myself, and the government does not have the right to tell me what to do in every little aspect of my life. The federal government and the power of the executive branch has grown way too strong. But we have a candidate in Ron Paul who is talking about restoring the power back to the people. We have reached a boiling point in the United States where there are so many different laws in so many different areas of our lives. And it's come to a boiling point where we can no longer tolerate tyranny in our lives. Somebody has to stand up for liberty. Amongst the nominees or the candidates for president this year, more donations have come from individual small donations, supporters from Ron Paul, from active duty military, than all the other candidates combined. Ron Paul has gotten military support. And in the mainstream media, they have not really talked about why a veteran would support Ron Paul. Well, I'm a veteran, and I'm going to tell you why I support Ron Paul tonight. Even more so in the media, not talking about the fact that veterans support Ron Paul more than any other candidate in the race, there is absolutely no explanation as to why a veteran would support Ron Paul. The only thing that I've heard in the mainstream media was to ridicule your soldiers who have gone overseas to fight and to serve your country, and called us crazy, called us inexperienced, called us novices, and made the assumptions that we have not been to combat, and that's the reason that we would support Ron Paul, because we're young, we're naive, we don't understand what war is about. Well, let me tell you, I spent 15 months in Afghanistan fighting with Taliban and Al-Qaeda forces, and I'm here to tell you that I believe that America needs a revolution just as much as I believe that I ever needed to go to Afghanistan to serve my country.
Yeah! Woo!
So this is my response. Why a combat veteran would vote for Ron Paul. My name is Adam House. I served on active duty in the United States Army from 2006 to 2010. I deployed to the Konar province of Afghanistan, which is the mountainous Pashtun tribal region bordering Pakistan, as a member of the 173rd Airborne from 2007 to 2008. I am a combat veteran. I was raised in a conservative Christian home where I learned to vote Republican. I did what I believed to be my duty as a good citizen, and I pulled the lever for Bob Dole in '96 and George W. Bush in 2000 and 2004. Sorry about the Bush vote. I voted for Ron Paul in the Republican primary via absentee ballot from Afghanistan in 2008. After returning from Afghanistan in 2008 and observing the TARP debacle unfold, I could not in good conscience vote for the Republican nominee who supported the bailouts. It seemed to me that my current Republican president, the Republican nominee in 2008, and a large swath of what I thought was supposed to be free market capitalists within the Republican Party lost their mind in a wave of Keynesian economic tripe. And I sure as hell wasn't going to vote for a radical statist like Barack Obama. My conscience demanded that I consider a third way. I've developed my own understanding of politics in the world over the years, and I am convinced that the interests of individual liberty must always remain a guidepost of first principle in all things tainted by the intervention of government. And I take that attitude with me to the voting booth, and this combat veteran is a very conscientious voter. This year I voted for Ron Paul in the Tennessee primary because he is not only the best candidate in the race for president, but because he is the only serious choice in light of the complex problems we currently face as Americans. The national debate in the mainstream media has little to no relevance in any realistic coverage of the most pressing political issues of our day. But Ron Paul is speaking the language of patriots. Patriots who still believe in the spirit of liberty in which this great nation was birthed. Ron Paul is proposing that our spending-addicted federal government actually balance its budgets like a true public servant. Ron Paul is proposing that we end the era of the central banking cartel and its unconstitutional power to manipulate the money supply at the Federal Reserve Bank and replace it with a responsible monetary policy. Ron Paul has a consistent record of demonstrating in both word and in deed over many decades that he respects his oath of office to uphold the Constitution and the rights that it protects. From life, property, and faith to speech, arms, and privacy, Ron Paul understands that liberty brings us together because we all want it for our own individual interests and ideas about how to pursue our individual happiness. Dr. Ron Paul is a Vietnam-era Air Force flight surgeon veteran. With Obamacare and other problems that we face as Americans in healthcare in general, it seems to me that a hands-on subject matter expert who has delivered thousands of babies as a doctor would be an outstanding asset to have as president. With a decade-old war in Afghanistan and hundreds of thousands of veterans coming home with service-related disabilities, it would seem to me that an experienced military doctor would be a wise choice for president. It would seem prudent to me that a nation which is still fighting a war that is unpopular with its own people would be well advised to elect a veteran who is against the current foreign policy of perpetual overseas military police state occupations. Win the wars and come home. Don't leave your soldiers stranded in an occupation overseas in perpetuity because it serves no purpose but to make us more insecure here at home. People want to say that Ron Paul's foreign policy is dangerous. Let me tell you, Obama's foreign policy is dangerous. Mitt Romney's foreign policy is dangerous. Ron Paul, his foreign policy is a foreign policy of freedom, prosperity, and peace. It is the message of the Founding Fathers. Thomas Jefferson provided us with guiding words of wisdom to secure America's future towards peace, freedom, and prosperity, when he said, "Commerce with all nations, alliance with none should be our motto." I think maybe we should still listen to the founders of our great republic. A thinking person must acknowledge that the human, moral, and cultural costs of war will sometimes be underestimated or even ignored when drowned out by the rhetoric of war fever and imperialism. Even Ronald Reagan said history teaches that war begins when governments believe the price of aggression is cheap. My fellow Americans, 8,000 members of the United States military has died in this unconstitutional global war on terrorism. That is more people than died at the trade buildings on September 11th. Are we going to stand for sending our soldiers to fight and die in a war that we never declared? To war-weary veterans, Ron Paul represents the chance to stop borrowing money from China, Japan, and other nations which may not necessarily have Americans' best interests at heart. To go about nation building in Afghanistan and any other country in the world in which we become enablers of their dependency. A President Ron Paul administration would give us a fighting chance to refocus our efforts on building something here in our own land, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Are there any veterans in the crowd? Yeah. Veterans, sound off. Yeah. If you know this, please join me in my closing statement. I am an American soldier. I am a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills. I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself. I am an expert and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am still an American soldier, and I support